Hey, welcome guys. My name is Dane. Today, I'm just gonna be sharing a little more about gangstalking, getting more followers now, and people. You know, I share a lot of testimonies and specific stories to let people know, where I've come from and the things that I've experienced. So hopefully, people can connect with that and realize like I'm not coming from a place of judgment over you or anything like that. Like my aim on here is to help people become victorious or move into new levels of freedom, ultimately through the power of God, because I believe that gang stalking has a significant spiritual component to it. I'm not saying physical things don't happen or people aren't involved, but I'm saying like spirits work through people, influencing and manipulating them, as well as our surroundings and the things around us. And these spirits are very deceptive, and they're not dumb. They know how to make you, they know how to make lies believable, right? Because a lie is only powerful if you can get someone to believe it. Otherwise, it's just silly, right? So, in my experience, a lot of times, like these people that are being used will tell you things, and then since these spirits have a certain level of power and spiritual ability, they can manipulate certain things around us to back up a lie. So if you're not operating with God's spirit, you're easily manipulated because you don't know what truth is. And when you can't stand on truth, like reality becomes really confusing. It's like we have no anchor, right? And so that's just, I didn't really plan on saying that, but that's where I'm kind of coming from. That's my angle on all this. For those of you who don't know me, I share these stories just to let you know what I've been through, and also point towards a hope. And I believe that hope is Jesus. And I know for me, it's been 5 years since all this started with me. And I've continually been able to get more and more free from addictions, from bad mindsets, from bad relationships, from continual mistakes and failures, to demonic oppression and the gang stalking. And just now I'm moving into a season where like I'm seeing so many good things happen, right? And I'm not saying it's easy, you guys. It's going to take everything you have, but what else do you have to lose? Like, I know how miserable life can be when you're going through the stalking and it's confusing and you're in darkness and it's like this pain and this heaviness, and like I'm telling you there's a way out, you guys. And I share these stories and these things that have helped me to try to point you to the one who can help you, and that's Jesus Christ. So I came to this knowledge and the power of God through the stalking, because it's the only thing I could go to. Like everything else was almost stripped out of my hands. It's like I had no help but God. I had no peace but God. I had no strength without God. Like, and so he's taught me like step by step, and he's shown me things that I wasn't able to understand always, right? And all this stuff started right after I received Jesus. I started seeing how the world was and how the world's ran, realizing that there was real evil in this world. And it let me know that, like, okay, if the devil's real, God's real. And I started realizing like my worldview was pretty similar to the Bible. So that's kind of how I took that leap. And one thing that stopped me that I want to share, because I think someone needs to hear this, is like, I think I believed the Bible before I accepted Jesus. And one thing that kept me from taking that jump was actually just the person that I was. And I thought God wouldn't accept me, right? Because I was a drug addict. living super foul and wild. And I'm like, I'm not going to be one of these hypocritical Christians where I pretend to be a Christian, but I'm living like a heathen. And so I've struggled with that big time. But what I realized about God is God isn't asking us to clean up to come to him. He's asking us to come to him with everything we are, and he will clean us up. So God first, he touches our heart. And then out of our heart, our whole life is transformed. And it takes a while, guys. It takes work. It takes really being self-analyzing and realizing where you're off. And one thing that helps with that is like being around spiritually wise people that are operating out of the Spirit of God and out of biblical wisdom. So the Word of God shows us where we're off and where we need to align ourselves with truth. So I wasn't planning on saying all that, but that's just a little snippet. That's where I'm coming from. That's what you're going to get in this channel. I'm not here to argue with people. I got people thinking I'm this and that. That's all right. You guys make your judgments as you see fit, but I'm going to stop even like entertaining all that, because I know anyone that does anything for God, it's going to be met with resistance. And I wouldn't be on here if I cared what people think, right? Straight up. So I got to remind myself that, because sometimes I was like, I want to plead my own case. Like, okay, why are people calling me this or that? But then I realized, like, these people don't actually want to know if I'm for real, because they don't reach out to me before they're slandering me, right? So that's an open invitation. Anyone who feels like they need to make videos about me or whatever, like, I'll give you my phone number, we could talk, right? Otherwise, I'm just going to assume it's opposition. But if you want a real understanding or whatever, invite me on your channel and we can do it that way. But anyways, I'll get to the story. So I say all that just to let you know, like, the spiritual side of this story. It's like I'm going to tell what physically happened, but I want to say that it wasn't just what physically happened. Like, there was like a spiritual component to it that I could feel and sense and see almost. So I was at this time, I think, like, I was going through it for a couple months, maybe probably not even 2 months, maybe like a month to a month and a half at this point. So all of it was really confusing to me. I'm not understanding why everywhere I go, like, people are treating me weird and just hating on me, or like trying to pick fights with me, and just like I'm getting met with this level of hatred and like ill intent towards me, which I'm like, I knew it wasn't me. Like, I haven't done anything to these people. So I get that people might not like you just, the way you look or the way you act or whatever, but I'm saying I wasn't putting out this level of anything to warrant the reactions I was getting. Like, I was trying to move like quietly, and I wasn't being any type of way. Like, I was trying to be low key and I was trying to stay out of the way. I'm on the street and there's crazy stuff going on all around me. Sorry, guys. There's crazy stuff going on around. I'm sorry. That was probably scary to you guys. There's crazy stuff going on around me, right? And like, I was involved in some sketchy stuff, but only because I was using drugs. Like, so my heart was never really all the way in that lifestyle. Though there's times where I was kind of forced to be in it more than I wanted to because of my addiction to my drugs. So But I know, like, looking back, like, my heart always knew, like, I'm not meant to be here. And I'm not saying I'm better than anyone, but I'm just telling you, like, there's some people that really go all the way in that lifestyle, and it's like I always felt something holding me back, and I always felt that there were certain things that I couldn't do. Whereas, like, like even my blood brother, right? Like, he would be moving in certain ways that, uh, like, when I tried to do the same, it's like people wouldn't. It was like people wouldn't let me do certain things, or I wouldn't have favor with these certain types of people that would get me in too far or whatever. So, anyways, there's this one day I was downtown. I was trying to sell some drugs, right? And I had sold something to this lady down there, and I was kind of hanging out. She had a dog, right? It was hot out, and so I'm sitting there, like, drinking some water. I'm, like, basically on the corner of this block downtown, and it's like a busy area down there, and it wasn't like super. It's not super like hood down there or whatever. There's normal people. There's people in their family. There's shops and stuff down there, businesses. So there's, like, hustle and bustle, like normal city stuff. It's not just all like grimy. And so I'm there. I'm sitting on the ledge, and so during this time, I'm experiencing a lot of, like, the stuff I was talking about. People yelling stuff at me when they're driving by, just weird stuff, threats, all that. So I am sitting there, and then all of a sudden I hear someone all the way at the end of the block, and it's like I hear this dude yelling, and I can't see him at this point because I'm sitting on basically there's a shop window behind me, and I'm sitting on, like, the ledge right next to the window on this corner. And this dude, I can tell he's all the way down the block, and he's yelling. Like, this guy can't see me, I can't see him. But from what he was saying, it was like I knew he was talking to me because of all the things that were going on. So I hear him yelling things like, yeah, and he's cussing, he's being belligerent. It's the middle of the day, right? A bunch of people around. He's like, where are you gonna go? You got nowhere to go. We're gonna get you, all this stuff. Like, he's basically threatening, right? And so I'm thinking this guy's talking to me, right? But I'm not reacting. I'm not, like, looking for him. I'm literally just observing, because a lot of the times when these things were happening, I was so, like, confused on why it was going on that I'm just observing, right? Because I'm trying to figure all this out. I'm not understanding any of it. And so this guy comes all the way down the block from the other corner, right? He walked onto this block, and I hear him the whole way. He's yelling. And so I'm still not looking at him. I'm just looking forward. He's coming down the sidewalk, like, next to me. And I don't look at him at all. He comes all the way down yelling, and then he gets probably like 10 feet from me. And so now I can see him in the corner of my eye, but I'm still not looking at him because I want to make sure he's talking to me before I acknowledge it, before like I give him any reason to lock onto me. Like, this is how I know that there's something not natural about it, right? Because this dude comes all the way down 10 feet from me, and then I feel him just staring at me, right? Like, he stops walking and he's just staring at me. And then I hear him, he's like, yeah, mother. He's like, where you gonna go? He's like, you got nowhere to go. He's like, you haven't talked to your family. No one knows where you're at. And he's like, I've been to jail 35 times. He's like, he said, yeah, jail 35 times. I've been to prison 7 times. And he's like, it ain't nothing to murder you, boy. He's like, we're gonna slide on you, boy. What you know about that, right? And then, so he gets, like, super gangster on me. And so now I'm looking at him because I'm like, what's up with this dude, right? And he's staring right at me, and I can feel this like the way he looks, this like evil energy that's coming off him, right? It's like he's just like intoxicated with the spirit. And it was weird. He was even like moving weird. His eyes are all like, it's like this spirit was just speaking through him. Because I don't know this dude. This dude doesn't know me, yet he knows stuff about me. Hates my guts. This guy's telling me he's gonna murder me. He's screaming at me, right? And I look around and everyone's just like, do. No one's even like looking at him or worried about what he's saying. And he's threatening to kill me, right? And what he said was true. Was like, I hadn't talked to my family. I didn't have nowhere to go, right? Like I was just basically out there, and he was saying like, what are you gonna do? Like, we're gonna kill you and you have nowhere to go. And so he goes on for maybe like 30 seconds to a minute. I looked around and like no one's like paying attention to this dude, so I didn't really know what to think, dude. I didn't even respond. I grabbed my bag and didn't say a word to the dude. I just got my stuff and left. And as I'm leaving, he's still yelling, yeah, you better watch out, we're coming for you, all this, right? Again, I don't know him. This dude has no reason to pick me out of a crowd. And all the way down, before he could even see me, he's already yelling at me, right? And so I'm telling you, that was a spirit in the dude. This dude don't know me. And, you know, people will say, coincidence, all these things, but this is like one thing out of hundreds of other things that were happening simultaneously. So yeah, you can chalk it up as coincidence or whatever, but this is like, these things were happening over and over, and just the spiritual energy that was there was just like this dude is not playing around. But it also felt like it wasn't coming from him. It felt like whatever was in him was just spewing out like this hatred for me, right? And so these things would happen to me where like a conflict is created with me, usually by them manipulating a situation or other people telling someone something about me that wasn't true. And then I would have like these issues with people. And then not only that, it's like these people would be put back in my path. So no lie, this was like a couple miles probably from where I was staying. And I'm coming down this trail like through like this little wooded area a couple days later. And I see this dude right by where I stayed, like right by my tent. He's on the trail. Only one on the trail. There's nobody else there. And he's sitting there leaning up on a tree, smoking a cig, just staring at me. And so now I'm like, okay, well, I either turn around and run from this dude that tells me he's going to kill me. And this dude, this guy was someone that, it wasn't like some little square was threatening me. This dude like looked like he would actually kill me. Right? Like this dude was like a gang member, right? And so now I'm walking towards this guy and I'm like, okay, do I turn around and run away from it? And during this time, it's like God was kind of giving me boldness and making me go through these situations that were fearful and having to trust him. And it's like, I could feel it right now. It's like I'm like, no, I'm not running from nothing anymore. I'm not running from these people. I'm getting threatened. If I continue running from these people, I would be running all day. Like that's how often this was happening. And so I was just like, I had to stand in faith that God would protect me. And I'm telling you, when you learn how to stand in the power of God, like things start shifting because they're not able to push you around in fear. And I'm not saying that because I was like some badass or something, like I'm telling you, there was times where I was super freaked out, but I still had to make the decision to be like, nope, whatever happens, like. And so I'm walking by this trail, and this dude just staring at me, smoking a cig, just kind of like mugging me. And I walked by him, and I just looked right in his eyes, and I was like, what's up? I didn't say nothing. I just gave him a little head nod, and dude just stares me down, and I never seen him again after that. Dude didn't threaten me, didn't do nothing, but it was like a heart check, and they wanted to see, what level they could go to put fear in me and control, because when you're in fear, you're easily controlled, right? And that's why people do crazy things when they're afraid. And so yeah, that's what happened. That was a specific story. I got more too. Eventually I'll tell the story, like, because so these situations were happening, right? And most of the time it would be like I couldn't really respond because there's too many of them. And like I would have, like, I could potentially fight, right? But most of the time I wouldn't, because I'm like, I couldn't win against all these people. It was dozens of people a day. It was like I would be not like nonstop running, nonstop fighting, and that's like the fight or flight that they try to put you in. It just eventually it's like you can't really do either. So you're having to just sit there with that adrenaline just flowing, not being able to fight or flight. But eventually they let me come up on this pistol, right? And I'll tell that story later if you guys want to hear that, because that kind of turns the tides, right? And that could have been really bad. I'll tell some stories on that, because I have a few that happened from that experience. So maybe I'll do that one next. But if you guys are going through it, just know it can get better. Look to Jesus. Start reading your Bible. Start praying. Start asking God for help. Start repenting. And just, God will give you wisdom, but you have to seek him, for sure. But all those threats, everything that any person ever threatened me, God never allowed it to happen. Death threats, all that stuff. It's like they were empty threats. So I had to walk through that stuff to overcome fear of dying and fear of people hurting me and all that stuff. So I believe that some of you may be still going through the stalking because you're still afraid, and God still needs to work that out of you, because if not, how are you ever going to overcome that fear? Let's say the stalking stops, yet the fear remains. So that's still a hook in you, right? So it doesn't really even matter if it stops, because that fear is still gripping you of like, oh, what if it starts again? What if they're just laying low? Like, so you have to overcome that fear, whether it stops or not. But you'll realize when you start facing it and standing up to it and learning how to stand in the power of God and the promises of God, like that fear, you start seeing it for what it is. And it's like, most of the time it's a lie. It's a threat of a lie, or it's a lie of a threat, So they're saying they're going to do something to put fear on you. But if they could actually do it, they probably wouldn't even be saying it, right? That's what I realized. Anyways, this is getting kind of long. Hopefully I'm not blabbering too much. Most of the time, if I start thinking too much on the videos, I'll end up just not posting them, but I'm just going to post it, and I just pray that this reaches the person it needs to, and that the Lord would keep you all safe and draw you closer to him. In Jesus' name.